Welcome to Free to Speak, the New Zealand Free Speech Union podcast. If you enjoy the show, subscribe for uncensored conversations and free speech news from New Zealand and beyond.
Welcome to Free to Speak. Today I have a veteran journalist. I don't like using the word veteran, but what can we say? I guess I'm a veteran too, documentary maker, so it doesn't really matter, does it? We're all veterans now. Yvonne Van Dongen, and we're going to talk today. I mean, I've wanted to have a really good chat to you for a long time, actually, just about the craft. I'm not a journalist. I have made a lot of documentary. I think there is definitely overlap. I was, nominated for a Voyager last year, I got to say, so that was quite eye-opening. We could even talk about that night because I thought there was, I don't want to be a party pooper, but I did feel like I was the outsider, and it was quite revealing. Just,
Yeah, I can imagine
what people got excited about and, what they didn't get excited about. You know what I mean? But we can get to that. But it would be good to just hear about, your career and journalism, where it was, some of the high points, and where you think it is today.
Yeah.
And where it could be going. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not going to know, but yeah.
No, you don't know. We can speculate, but speculation is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Yeah.
And have a lot of fun with that. Like I've got my own ideas, so we can just have a back and forth on that. Yeah. So great. Well, great to have you here.
Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Dane. It's lovely.
Nice. Okay. Well, so let's start at the beginning. So what brought you to journalism? How did you start? Just take us through the whole thing.
Okay. So I did what lots of people do. I did a degree in English and religious studies, of all things. And then I traveled to Amsterdam because I had a Dutch passport and I could work there. And so I went through the overland thing, took about a year to get to Amsterdam. And I got a job, strangely. I went and knocked on all these doors and I could speak Dutch and I could ask for a job in a cafe. And I got a job. So I spoke to one woman and she said, we don't speak Dutch here. We only speak English. I said, oh, really? She said, yes, I'm Nairi from Gisborne. And I said, oh, okay. And she said, Penny from Whakatani's downstairs. And then so I said, I'm from Christchurch. She said, you've got a job. So I worked in this cafe, which was a very unusual cafe, and she would be quite a good person to interview because the woman who ran it, Nairi Saunders, she had also travelled through, she'd been a dental nurse and travelled through Asia baking cakes. And in those days, when you went through Asia, those cake shops were really a big thing. They're probably not now, but they were a big thing. And then she got to Amsterdam and she started a cafe, and we used the Edmonds cookbook. And it was ostensibly vegetarian. And we also had a bicycle thief, and we had a dealer. We had our own house dealer. So you get someone to buy dope, someone to steal your bike. So it was a really colourful, unusual place to work. And I was the only one who was allowed to be there because they were all illegal. I had a Dutch passport. I was the only one who could speak Dutch. So I worked there for about 18 months. It was great. And when I was there, I thought, I didn't really want to be doing this forever. And I applied for journalism school. I just sent one of those blue aerograms off to Brian Priestley and to a couple of others. Anyway, then I came back to New Zealand, worked for the Early Childhood Workers Union. And then I had an interview up at AUT to do their journalism course. So I took the bus up because I didn't have much money, took the bus up and did the interview. And I thought the interview was so appalling, I laid a complaint because I was asked questions like, what's your star sign? How do you think that affects your journalism? I see you've done a lot of feminist things. That shows a lot of bias, blah, blah. Anyway, I thought it was terrible. And I was working with Ros Noonan, and she taught me that to write everything that was said to me down, and then send off a letter of complaint, which I did. And the guy, I think he's dead now, Jeff Black, he was apparently after this, there was an investigation and he was never allowed to interview on his own again because the questions were so peculiar.
But some of the the woke stuff today, asking star signs wouldn't be out of place today.
I suppose so. Yeah, it just seemed odd. And did I mind propping up bars, he asked, because a lot of journalism involved propping up bars and going to bars and you've got your stories there. I thought it was just a really blokey, odd interview, really odd questions.
But did that speak to the culture back then?
Probably did.
Of journalism?
Of a particular old grizzled type of male, which I'm sure does not exist now. And I was so shocked. So I wrote this letter of complaint. I got a letter back that I'd never be allowed to interview again. I didn't get in, but I thought, well. And then I applied to Brian Priestley's one. I was living in Wellington at the time. Brian Priestley's course was the postgrad course at Canterbury. And
who was Brian? Like, was he quite
Brian
notable?
Priestley was a very well-known chap, and he ran the postgraduate course at Canterbury University. He had worked at an English paper, was it the Manchester Evening News, something. So I can't remember.
Okay.
But he was quite a highly regarded chap.
Real credentials.
Yeah, and it was harder to get into that course because you had to have a degree, and it was done on marks and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, I went to the interview, and straight away, as soon as I went in to see him, I could tell I'd got in because he knew that I'd laid the complaint against Jeff Black. And he said, actually, we've had quite a number of women who have gone to his interviews, and they come out crying. I said, crying? And he said, and I was the only one who hadn't come out crying and laid a complaint. I thought, my God, these people are feeble.
You fall back.
Yeah. I just crying. That just blew me away. Anyway, so I got in on the basis of that because he thought, here's a disagreeable person. And he's quite right in a way. And so I would be a suitable journalist, which I admire him for because it means you get a whole bunch of really difficult people around you. But and actually one of the people I did the course with is on TVNZ a lot, Simon Mersep. You'll see him on TVNZ doing news. So I was actually older than most of the people on the course because I had been living overseas. So only about 3 or 4 years and not much. But anyway, so I did that course and we did shorthand. I mean, it was good. We learned about the law. Shorthand is probably the best thing I ever learned, and they don't teach you that anymore, I don't think. And so I did the course and then set about applying for jobs. I went to an interview at the Ashburton Guardian, which I did not get, thank God. They said at that interview, do you mind going to church? I said, why? And they said, well, if you're going to be part of the community, the church is an important part of the community, so it would help if you were a churchgoer. I thought, okay, it's weird, but okay. I mean, maybe there's some validity in that. Maybe
they really just wanted to embed you where all the gossip was going to be.
Possibly, yeah. I just didn't know that such things were expected. I'm either propping up a bar or I'm going to church or, So that's what.
Join the rugby club.
Yeah, it was like that. So anyway, I didn't get that.
Especially those smaller communities,
yes,
I guess.
I think there's some merit in it. Now, if he'd couched it in a different way, I might not have been quite so. I mean, I didn't clap back or anything, but I just was quite shocked, really. But anyway, that was all right. Yeah. People were much more open about what they required. I don't think they would do that now. I really don't.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
So then I got a job at the New Zealand Times. It was a new newspaper, a weekly newspaper. And I flew to Wellington and got a job there, which was fantastic. It was really a wonderful place to work. So you could spend time on stories, travel around the country. There was a luxury of having adequate money because ads were still coming in. I don't know, there was housing ads, a whole lot. The advertising for newspapers was still strong. So it was a really luxurious. It was a wonderful job. And I worked with wonderful people. Probably nobody knows any of them. Al Morrison, he was once. He was at RNZ was he a senior editor? He'd done many things anyway. And Kate Coughlin, and she started Life and Leisure. Really good people. And I learnt a lot. And you were given a lot of freedom. You could really write about issues that you cared about. And there were a bench full of grizzled old subs that we all hated. But actually, when I look back, I think actually it's good that they were there to kind of pull back our excesses. And I think it's quite good to have something to push up against in a way. Yeah, really, a little bit. And they were of a different generation, different mindset, different views. A bit sexist. They were pretty sexist, but, that was real. keeping it real. And it is, I do miss not having subs now. I do miss it. And I don't know.
Well, describe a sub. What's a sub?
A sub, so they take your story and they make it fit into the space, but they also check all the facts. Have you really explained everything? They've got an enormous general knowledge, these people, enormous, so they can pick up all sorts of things. They're really, really smart. So there was no online checking anything. They were the online. They were the computer brains who remembered what had gone before, if that was correct or not correct. So they saved you from yourself. They did save you from yourself, for which I'm really grateful for.
Are they a bit like, the movie All the President's Men? Those wonderful scenes with Martin Balsam and all those older actors.
I can't really
talking
remember.
About, I don't think there's a story. I don't think Robert Redford and they have a story yet.
Yes.
And it's like, there's no story here. You know, like that.
Yeah.
Would it be that kind of thing?
That sort of thing. And also,
was that more editorial?
Yeah, that's more editorial. Probably more the chief reporter. Al Morrison was the chief reporter. He was great. Bob Fox was the editor. He was a very unlikely editor for what was ostensibly sort of more highbrow weekly newspaper, because David Longy had said of him, I think at some valedictory thing, that Bob Fox was better suited to the TAB weekly or something. He was that kind, but he was a likable guy, and I think he had a lot on his plate, because I was quite a disagreeable person, and I worked with a Finnish guy, Pekka Parvenpera. He makes me seem incredibly agreeable. He was really disagreeable. So Bob had this idea that all Northern Europeans were very difficult. Yes. And Pekka really was famously, outrageously difficult, really.
Well, what kind of, like,
one time, I hate to tell this story. I mean, Pekka was just, he was something else. He decided that he was going to see how long he could get away with not doing any stories. And we'd come in and I'd say, how are you going? Week 2, week 3, week 4. I think it took about 6 weeks with somebody. I think they were a little bit scared of him, because he was quite a big kind of Russian burly guy. He was just a nightmare. Yeah. I do remember also one time he got given a notice. I think it was like a threat or something, that you do this again, you're not going to be employed, something like that. And he just stood in front of the editor and he said, "Do you know what I think of this?" And he just shredded it in front of everyone. I mean, we had a lot more power than we deserved at that time, I've got to say. We did.
Oh, well, okay. Well, where did that power come from?
I don't know. I don't know. I think journalists did then. I think that we did. There was just more money, less pressure. And I think Bob was probably a little bit out of his depths, because the journalists were smart, not smart. Yeah, maybe they were smarter and stroppier than he was, And yeah, maybe we didn't have to. We were probably a bit spoiled, really.
Is it that headstrong idea?
Yes.
I mean, did you sort of expect a type to be a journalist? It's like, well, if the person wasn't, because I mean, when I've done documentary, it's like, if I don't get the shot that moment, or if I don't ask the question, I don't really get a second chance.
Yeah.
So sometimes you really have to elbow your way in.
You do. And you do have to, because I remember when we first started, we had to be the kind of people who are willing to pick up, like on Saturdays, there'd be car accident day and you'd be on, and you would have to ring up the family and ask for a comment. I mean, that, and you had to be willing to do things like that. And I think I know that there was a young woman, I've forgotten her name. She started journalism, did the course. She got the highest mark, actually. She got in the course first, but it was too brutal for her. And she left, I think, before the course finished, because it did require, you had to be a bit thick-skinned. You had to, and a bit brazen. And I think maybe because I've got that Dutch background, I've travelled overseas, anyway, I didn't find that difficult, really.
There were no cases you can recall that you were quite troubled?
I think I would have been intimidated going to Parliament and having to deal with someone like Muldoon, who was quite a scary person, but he was gone before I came along. I think, yes, probably, but I wasn't in Parliament. So, no, not dear. I mean, no, I'm quite good at cold calling. It doesn't bother me at all. And I like people, so I'm interested in talking to them. Yeah, but probably politicians, it's a different field altogether. I never worked as a parliamentary reporter, so that would be different. Yeah.
So what was your beat?
I was doing features, just general features, and I had amazing freedom, just find stories, or sometimes you might be assigned something, but really you just followed your nose, or you heard something, or, yeah, it was brilliant. And I could write really long stories. I was allowed to write really long stories. And yet occasionally I would be assigned stories. I had to do a profile on Lloyd Gearing, who's still alive. That was my first, I did a story on him, and I won
He must be 113.
I think he's 103 or something. Yeah, he seemed old then, and I'd done a degree in religious studies. I think he'd come to visit us, but and I interviewed him and I won a prize straight away. So that I remember that, and he's still going. Amazing person.
You might need to do a follow-up.
I know. He's an amazing person. Just incredible. So you do get the privilege of meeting all sorts of people. It was fabulous being able to get a car and drive for miles and go anywhere. And there was never a problem of this is too expensive or we can't afford that. Or it seemed. Now, when looking back, it was the very end of that kind of heyday, I think. I really do. Coming to the end, yeah. So after that, I had a boyfriend up in Auckland, so I left, and who did I work for? I'm terrible memory, actually, who I worked for. I went up north. I wanted to go to Auckland because I had a boyfriend there, and I worked for National Business Review. And even though I knew nothing about business, but that was also that kind of that pre the crash, business was really
80, mid-80s.
Ladies, everybody in a share club. I never was. Everything.
87's the
big crash, that's right. Yeah, so it was pre that,
Mm.
and so everything was hot, and there was that magazine called Property Investor and all sorts of things, So they just took me on. They took on
the yuppie bubble.
it was a
about to
total
burst,
yuppie
wasn't it?
bubble, and they took me on to do profiles, which was fun. That was because I knew nothing about business, nothing. But lots of people were taken on who knew nothing. Yeah, and so I worked there. That was good, and that's when I got to write a profile of Ron Briley, because I was asked to do that. And then after that, I got 3 letters from publishers saying, would I want to write a book? And I thought, oh, okay, yeah, all right, I'd like to do something different. I was actually getting a bit sick of things, and I just wanted to change. So I left because I got paid, I can't remember, some sort of amount. And I took time off, and I told Briley's, and I went down to Wellington on and off and wrote the biography of Sir Ron Briley. And funnily enough, that you asked me today, I saw in the paper today that he's got a book that he's written himself about his career, even though he's been in jail for unseemly things. But he's doing his own book. Anyway, so I went back and forth, and sometimes
There's a chutzpah, isn't it, to do your own book after? It's chutzpah to do your own book after everything that he's sort of gone.
I know. I think he just wanted the truth recorded, because I'm sure I didn't get to the truth. I mean, probably didn't know enough business, but I did get to speak to a lot of people. I flew on his jet with him over to Sydney, and I went and met Bruce Judge and met all the key people. It was an interesting insight into that world. And yeah, there were some good people there, and I kept in touch. There was a reunion probably 10 years ago now that I went to. And yeah, certainly some very interesting people and an interesting time. So I wrote.
Sorry. We'll just put pin in that. I just want to sort of talk about your process, like writing something like that, because I'm very interested in process.
Okay.
And I think for the listeners, I mean, this is a free speech podcast, but how a reporter approaches the work. What are your parameters? Where are your no-go zones? Like, I've got a few stories about myself about doing documentary I wouldn't mind sharing, or maybe I'll go into one of mine now, where I had access to Frank Bainimarama in Fiji, and I had some pretty good access. These guys took me over there, and I had a meeting with him and everything, and it didn't go well. It was pretty stern until I gave him a rugby jersey because my nephew played club rugby in France.
Oh, okay.
Once I gave, he's an ex-All Black.
You're one
So
over.
once I gave him that, he just completely changed, slapping my back, taking photos, loved me to bits, smiley to ear and everything. So I had the access.
Yeah.
I went back. A guy offered me like $100,000 cash just to go and make this, but I had to jump him. I had to ambush him. He wanted it to. He didn't like him, and he wanted it to be about that. But I had promised him that it would be in his words.
So this guy wanted you to do a hit job.
He wanted me to do a hit job. He was going to
Yeah.
give me $100,000, but I saw a documentary probably when I was about 18 on Idi Amin,
Okay.
the Ugandan dictator,
Yeah.
by Babette Schroeder, who was a French, quite an avant-garde director, but he did a little bit of documentary. And this film was a interview done at the height of Amin's reign.
Yeah.
And he literally, just because he was such a raconteur and so insane,
Yeah.
that all you had to do was put a camera on the guy and he just performed.
Right.
And it became a midnight movie in Europe.
Right.
It was it played like a comedy, even though it was dark as hell.
Yeah.
And that really inspired me. I thought, well, just get good talent and just let them talk.
Yeah.
That's all you really need to do. And that's what I wanted to do with Bainimarama. I didn't want to sort of set him up or push him one way or the other. I just wanted to see what he'd say if the camera just kept going.
Yeah.
So I turned it down, that money.
Oh.
Which may sound a bit heroic and principled, but the other thing is some people had got me access, and I was a bit concerned about what might have happened to them as well.
Yes, I can understand that. Yeah, there's risks.
You know what I mean?
There's risks.
If someone gives you access like that, it's like, what if their family had gotten a bit of trouble or someone had ended up in prison for 5 years?
Yeah.
I wasn't going to wear that on my conscience. So I said no, and it didn't end up happening really. I sort of screwed up generally on it. I needed to go over with nothing and just shoot it myself. But it didn't happen. But like for you, when you're approaching a subject like that, are you similar? Like where are your parameters? How do you, the journalist, how do you go about it?
It was difficult.
How did you go about it back then?
Ron is not. He's not a big storyteller and someone who talks about himself. And he didn't want to get involved, and he didn't want me doing it, and he didn't think I was suitable. And so he was quite.
Did he tell you why?
No, he's not a man of many words. And I think now, if you look back, he's probably on the spectrum. I don't think I really understood him then, but we've learnt a lot more. I think he's quite an unusual person.
We never talked like that back then.
No, we didn't. We didn't know anything about it. I'd interviewed his mother, and I'm glad I did before she died, because she was quite insightful. So, but however, I thought, well, I may not get any interviews with him. There's no guarantee. So I have to do all the people around him. And fortunately, because he's very introverted, he does tend to be drawn to people who are quite extroverted, kind of the opposite. And so I had good access to really good, chatty, very likable people like Bruce Hancock's. And so that helped a lot. He could tell some very funny stories. I didn't warm to all of them, of course, and Don McDonald, he's died now, but he was great. So he did have some very warm, likable people around him. And then I think as time went on, he saw that I wasn't dissuaded. He occasionally would allow me to come on the plane as long as I didn't interrupt him, and occasionally I'd give an interview. He didn't give you much. He's the master of deflection and, just kind of fobbing you off, really. He's not someone who needs to unburden himself, who needs to tell the truth. He's not that sort of person at all.
Did that process get weaved into the writing? Like, because sometimes by necessity I find that you can become a character, especially if you are hitting walls, because that's part of the story, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't.
Or was that
I
never
might
your style?
write it differently. I would have written it differently now, perhaps, but then we've learned so much more about so many things, haven't we? But no, I just let the people around him speak for him, and they were revealing enough, because I also got the information about him going to Thailand and paying for young girls, and that was in the book. And So that was in the book.
So you found that out and you
I
put that
did.
in the book.
And I put it in the book, and I got it checked, had to be checked legally, of course. And actually, at the time, that was actually not seen as quite as scandalous as it would be now. People thought, well, we thought he was gay because he was never really seen with women. And so I think it was regarded as the better of the two, options. He's not gay, but he goes to Thailand and pays for young girls. And the person I spoke to about that said, oh, yes, he said, I don't know what Ron does. He said, they'll probably just have a cup of tea, and he just likes to be with young girls. But later on, in fact, in recent years, I was contacted by a woman who said she had been a prostitute in Wellington at that time. She was dying now, and she's since passed away. And she just wanted to talk to me off the record, or sort of off the record, about having clients. It was quite an upmarket brothel in Wellington, and Ron was one of her clients. And she said he never really wanted anything. I just used to have to bath him, and he'd just moan about his mother in the bath. And okay. Yeah, I think I wrote that for a story later. It wasn't in the book, of course, because it was well after the book. But he's a very singular, unusual person. Very unusual. He's a man of his time, I think. The fact that he was obsessive about value, obsessive about certain things, and so he could look through accounts and unlock value and see things that were there that other people couldn't see. AI could probably do it now, but he could see it then. And he put out a newsletter tip sheet. He saw that all these kind of moribund companies had a whole lot of land and buildings and plant that they weren't using properly. It was a moment in time, post-war, and they were fat and complacent. So he thought, well, just why not buy it and sell off every little part and make money? Makes sense, doesn't it? Makes sense. So he was like someone coming in like a maggot cleaning up a corpse or something, really, just going through. I mean, people were shocked. He'd buy the company, suddenly be selling, doing things, and it wasn't the gentleman's way. And he wasn't a gentleman. He was he was a maverick, although, it makes him sound more swashbuckling than he really is in real life. But he enjoyed being a thorn in their side. He enjoyed knowing more than they did and having that information and having one up on them. He did. He enjoyed the whole process. He loved doing the research. He was obsessive about it. It's all he did. All he did was this obsessive research. And then it got bigger, so he had to employ people. But fortunately, as I say, he was drawn to extroverts who formed the company around him. He's not really someone who can manage people or wants to manage people.
So there was an aspect of enigma, but you were able to get stuff from
other people. Yeah.
Other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, so we'll move forward on your career, but while we're still in your earlier days, so free speech in the late 70s, early 80s, you would have started.
Yeah.
So what was the attitude there among journalists? Like today, we're going to get more articles and stuff and papers like that are going to be sort of pro censorship, really, or skeptical about, the whole free speech thing. But journalists, the caricature even is that they're free speech warriors and would be very pro that. So what was your,
we didn't
was
even
it something, or did you take it for granted?
We took it for granted. It wasn't even discussed. It wasn't a notion of cancelling or not writing about something. It just wasn't in the air. It was just, free speech was
because
assumed.
the assumption is you were going to push at things and the editors would have been encouraging you. They were never getting in your way.
And so if I had found that Ron, the most outrageous thing would have been if I'd found that he had been gay, right? That was really, that was beyond the pale and unseemly and yucky. And I still would have done it. So.
And your the editor publishers or edit?
It was actually the person who was the editor, funnily enough, is still a friend of mine, Graham Adams. He edited my book, and he writes a really good. It's not a Substack. He writes for all sorts of publications now, doesn't he? Graham does. So we're both two disagreeable bigots who write about things. Yeah. So I've kept in touch with him. So he was the editor. I found him really picky, but he's very good. He's an excellent editor. It was irritating, but really good, because it's published by Penguin. He's a great editor, fantastic. And in fact, if I need anything checked now, I'll send it to him, and he'll say, "Oh no, I wouldn't do that. That's that can be." Anyway, he'll just save me from myself sometimes.
Well, Graham, who writes for the platform?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I've sent him one or two things, and he said, "You know what? It falls apart."
Yeah.
Because I'm not a writer. I'm not a journalist.
Yeah.
Like I write opinion pieces.
Yeah.
I write polemics. I
Yeah.
often do them to warm up for my
Yeah.
creative writing.
Yeah.
So I do them it's like a little warm up for me.
That's
I'm like
nice.
stretching.
Yeah. It does help you understand the topic, doesn't it? It does help
Yeah.
you. I often think I write to understand, see what I really think. But
Well, you're pulling it out of your head and you're
Yeah.
putting it somewhere.
Yeah.
Speaking it aloud might be the same, but there's been a couple of times where I've sent him things and he's gone, it just is, it's just not working.
I would always listen
He's
to Graham.
honest and I park it.
Yes, I'll always listen to Graham. Always listen to Graham. He's really smart, and you can have a debate with him, and he doesn't get offended. But his instincts are excellent, really excellent. So I was very lucky.
He's written some fantastic pieces,
Yeah,
and bold pieces for the age.
he has.
And you really miss a voice like that,
Yes.
don't you? And some of the main,
Yes,
mainstream publications, actually.
I think so too. It's a wonder that they don't grab him, because if they really want to get a broader readership, they need different voices, which they haven't got. So yeah, he's fantastic.
It's his integrity as a writer, but it's also the depth.
Yep.
And when you're sort of blowing the lid on something, it's just interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there is an entertainment factor there too.
Oh, he's funny. He's very, very,
Yeah,
very funny.
Yeah. But it's worth
Yeah.
reading. It's worth reading.
He is, because yes, often he doesn't uncover anything new. It's not necessarily investigative, but he knows what's gone before. He picks up that this doesn't make sense, or that this person's contradicting themselves, or you know what I mean? He's not uncovering hidden things, but he's just reminding us of what's been out in the...
But pointing out hypocrisy
Yes.
almost plays like an
Yes.
investigation now, because we're so bereft of...
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. He's
You know?
he's a gem, isn't he? He is a gem.
He is.
He really, really is. I mean, I worry about
really
him because he
respect
keeps
him.
very in different health, and I think, God, please hang in there, Graham. We really need you. We need a voice like this. There's no one who does anything like it, I don't think. Not at all.
No,
And it's funny that he's really found his voice or his place in recent years, really, because most of the time he'd been a copywriter, a sub-editor, a chief sub at North and South, all sorts of things. But this writing, I think, is probably the most important part of his career. I think most significant.
Yeah.
I do. He's a really significant voice.
Well, when you get to a certain age, like I was talking to someone about this the other day. Like I am doing quite a few film scripts now.
Yeah.
For some like overseas stuff, and so I feel really honored. But for a while, for a long time, I've wanted to blend tone. Some of them are thrillers, but I want them to have a wink, but not too much of a wink. So I'm sort of wanting to blend this tone and that, but it's really hard to blend tone.
Also.
So some of these experiments of mine would just go, and just completely die.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to be too clever and it just didn't work. It was just too ambitious and didn't work. But then I did a pilot about 3 years ago or 4 years ago for a ill-fated Warner Brothers project that I got fired from. That's another story. Yeah, my own project, they fired us. It was actually a satire on Brian Tamaki.
Oh my God, that would be, right. I think I remember
I told
about
Brian
that.
about it.
Yeah.
So, and they just got cold feet.
Oh,
and,
shame.
Made the pasta white and, flipped it, and it just died a death. But like I got the pilot finally to a place where it was like, it wasn't laugh out loud stuff, but it was satire and it was affecting, and I got some really good feedback on them. I thought, great. And so the last couple scripts I've done have been sort of in that vein now.
Yeah.
And I'm going, but I'm 53.
Yeah. Does that matter?
So I've been writing for,
Does that matter?
Oh, but no, but I'm saying like I've been writing for like decades, like a couple of decades.
Yeah.
But like I finally feel like I have a confidence now.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think to myself, I don't think I was ever confident.
Well, that's good that you've got it now. I know it is. It's true because I think that plagues writers generally, don't you? I do. I think all the time, whenever I handed my copy to the subs, and it was actual hard copy, a pile of it, and I see them sniggering and I think, oh no. You just feel, I don't know whether it was the way we were brought up, but you were not brought up to have bags of self-esteem or it's completely, I don't know, it's different now, it seems to me. But my daughter's got self-esteem coming out of everywhere.
I've had a bit of swag, but I just couldn't. I just think what was in my head, I couldn't quite get onto the page.
Yeah, I can understand that. Do you know the first?
So I do it like a low grade version of it, of what was in my head, and then I feel like I've got the technique and I guess honesty too, I think you got to be really honest with yourself as a writer.
Yes, you
even
do.
in documentary. Yeah,
you do. The first thing I did, so Graham and I became friends. And he had done a whole lot of things. I think he'd done a film script or something. And I had half an idea for a film. And he said, I'll work with you on that because I've done a bit of film. And we sent it off to the Gibson Group. I mean, seems mad now. And they liked it straight away and gave us money straight away and continued to give us money until even they realized that we didn't know what we were doing. Which is
well, screenwriting's different.
Oh, it's completely different. Was it I don't know if it was a drama or a romantic comedy. Anyway, it's much harder. It's much harder. So anyway, it was quite a fun thing to do. Poor old Gibson Group funding us.
But these are such expensive things. They can throw 10 grand, 20 grand.
Really?
Or something,
Okay.
Because ultimately, if the finished thing's worth 10 million, they'd rather take a bath on 20.
Okay. Yeah, look, he was very nice to deal with, the Gibson Group. They were really good.
Dave Gibson?
No complaints.
He gave me some mentorship. Yeah, lovely man.
Yeah, he was good to me. So that was it. So I did that. And then what was my next job? Where did I work? I worked at North and South for a very short time. I was their first journalist that they'd ever employed.
And your features.
Into doing features. But in fact, we had a falling out. And I think I was probably sacked as well because I had never been used to being directed. Like they'd say, say an editor would say, do a story on, they're going to open up the airways and they're going to have a new airline. Have a look at the whole airline regulation or industry, blah, blah. And I'd just be sent off to go and talk to a bunch of people. And nobody directed you, tried to get you to shape the story, but they had a clear idea of where they wanted the story to go. And if mine didn't go in that direction, then they were cross. And I remember there was something about, I was going to do a story on, remember Dr. David Minnett? I don't know if you remember this. I can't remember the exact story about it. He had killed somebody. I think Dr. David Minnett had killed somebody. Anyway, they wanted the story. They gave me the headline before I started. It was called The Hounding of Dr. David Minnett. And I thought, how do I know he's been hounded before I've started? I just wasn't used to that. And I didn't like it. Anyway, they didn't. So I didn't. I always think of myself as quite an agreeable person, but I can see from my history that I've been quite disagreeable. And so I didn't. I spoke out and they said, look, they sacked me. They said, look, you'd be better off somewhere like Broadsheet or New Outlook. Okay. Because we just did not see eye to eye at all. Not at all. Because really, at that time, Warwick Roger had quite a lot to do with North and South. His view was, he was really involved. And Robin Langwell was the editor. They probably did me a favour, and I'm sure they were relieved to get rid of me. So then what did I do after that? I think I went back to the New Zealand Times for a while, and then I can't even remember what I've done in my own life, to be honest. It's terrible.
or you're freelancing and doing. I mean, it's like me. If I like,
Yeah.
I do about 18 different jobs a year.
I bet you
so
do, yeah.
it's hard to really.
It's hard to remember, yeah. So the jobs, India, then I did work at, I got a job, I had a child, and then I got offered a job. Someone actually contacted me to be the travel editor of the Herald, and they'd only had one travel editor then. I don't think they've got one at all now. I'm not sure that they do. Anyway, this was a whole up-and-coming field, which I actually didn't rate. I always thought that being a travel editor was not a serious job, and these are not serious people. But then,
but frivolous.
Yeah, and it was like, that's not journalism. But then they said, oh, you'll be going to England in a few weeks' time. And then a bit later in the year, there's India. I thought, oh, maybe I could bend my principles a bit. Yeah. And actually, it was really good. It was a whole emerging field, and I could think about what was it supposed to be like. Yeah, and I had to do awful things like layout, which I hate. You had to do the whole thing. Yeah, I hate all that. You have to be quite good at that whole spatial thing. Yeah. Write a lot, do layout, organise copy. It was actually quite hard work. And then you go away and you'd have to get everything done beforehand because it was all done on paper and cut out. Because the Herald, I was at the Herald, so they were, I think, one of the last papers in the Western world to go digital, actually. Really one of the last.
Really?
Yeah, and then they picked a system.
We're a little slow on tech.
Yeah, and they picked a system that was done at the Orange County or something, and it was a disaster. It was a disaster.
Oh, no.
Yeah, because when I started, I was typing on an old Imperial 66, really an old thing. Yeah, I can actually rebuild a typewriter. I'm really good at it. Pulling it all out, putting the cartridge in and yeah, things that you don't need to do now. So I did that, and it was a great job because you were being sent somewhere, and it was always 5-star. It was fantastic. It was a whole. I don't think it exists anymore. You don't need to. They don't need to. People, you've got all the other mediums. You don't need to have newspapers telling you where to go and what to do.
Well, everything's broken. Everything's sort of niche now, isn't it? It's all sort of.
It is.
I noticed that the Washington Post has like cancelled a few departments.
Okay.
And there was a lot of Jeff Bezos owns it now, and everyone's saying, oh, he's doing it to make Trump happy, and that whole thing. And
no,
I don't know, but like it sounds like he's just reducing it to core. That's what it felt like to me. Because I mean, you can. Why have this expansive thing when people sort of break up their news now?
Exactly.
Really?
I agree. Things have changed. I mean, I think I look at the Herald and I don't think they have a dedicated travel editor, because I had a trip, it was me as a travel editor and I had someone sidekick working for me. It's just, that seems like such a luxury now. So I've been riding the crest of the sort of a wave that has just finally crashed, really. And so I think I've had the best of it in lots and lots of ways. Because now, if you were going overseas, I think you'd struggle to sell a story. You would, because people, you don't have to buy it. There's TikTok, there's videos, there's influencers. You can get the information anywhere. You don't need
anywhere.
it.
Yeah.
So I was lucky.
Yeah. Oh, well, no, that's incredible. I didn't know about your books, actually. I need to read one.
Oh, no, don't. No.
Why not?
Because the Briley one, now that if I wrote it again now, I would do it differently, or I'd assess him differently because I'm older and more mature, and we all know a lot more.
We all know a lot more.
We know a lot more. That's the one thing about the internet. It does make so much accessible. It was really hard work going to a library and going through the files and looking for things. It's really hard work, and you'd only get little sort of slices of information, really. It was harder.
Yeah, the first scripts that I was writing, like some of the early ones that didn't get made, but I was sort of cutting my teeth on it. Libraries, a day in a library, getting like a ton of books out, reading them, discovering I don't know if this helps me or not, and all of that, interviewing people, cold calling people, just having phone interviews to get stuff.
A good librarian was your best friend. It's really so different.
It's so different. Which actually take so I think that's a nice segue to today and some of the issues that may or may not be happening today, and we're probably both quite opinionated on this.
Yes,
Me being sort of media adjacent, if not like right in at Ground Zero as a documentary maker, but um, uh, like I read the spin-off, right?
Oh, do you?
No, not often, but if I
Oh,
do, I should
yeah.
have said, if I, am
Yeah.
unfortunate enough to have it in front of me and start reading and can't stop
Yeah.
because I'm just appalled and my eyes are just fixed on this nightmare. Um, uh, uh, I I always feel like this writer never left their seat.
Yeah.
They clearly never left their seat.
Yeah.
Maybe they did to get their coffee, but they settle in
Yeah.
and they can write everything they want to
Yeah.
say. They can talk about how they don't like the human rights commissioners, and
Yeah.
it's very like,
Yeah.
it just feels like they never left. During COVID, when Michael Moore was at the border, and he was clearly interviewing people in the unions and all that kind of stuff to work out what was happening at the border. Remember all that reported?
Oh, yes.
That,
Yeah.
Michael Moore did. That's a guy that leaves his seat.
Yeah, that's
isn't
right.
it?
That's right.
That's a guy that leaves a seat. That
Yeah.
to me is still a journalist.
Yes.
That's the people I want to call journalists.
Yes. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
guys that are hitting the bricks. They're
Yeah.
they're out there. They're knocking on some difficult doors.
Yeah.
In documentary that happens a lot actually. Like there's a guy I know from South Auckland who I think sometimes is taken advantage of a bit because he could open some pretty incredible doors to some pretty dark characters.
Okay. Yeah.
And he'd knock on doors that a lot of the other producers and that they just would not have the bottle
Right.
to
Right. To
you
do
know
that.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know that I would either.
yeah. Well, I've done it a few times, and I think I have a way with
Yeah.
people, and sort of I think I can talk to people from that world, not
Yeah.
like my friend can, but I'd back myself, but I'd probably send him if I could.
Yeah.
But he had one episode where he was speaking to the associate of a murderer, and a very controversial, New Zealand character, this guy,
Yeah.
and the guy was racially abusing him and just going ballistic, and my friend was like, look, okay, get out of your system, mate, but I still really want to have a talk to you.
Wow. Okay.
And he ended up going inside. They put the kettle on, and he left 4 hours later
Wow. That's good.
with the story.
That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah, he could do that,
That
and
is
and
good.
that's a whole other world,
It
isn't
is.
it? Of
It is. It's a whole.
that's
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
is that happening today the way it should or could, or
I
so?
think
What?
I worry that the people who are in the media now have got quite a fixed view of how they think the world is. There's goodies
Mm,
and baddies, villains and oppressors, all that, and a fixed view on all sorts of things. So they go in with already with a lens. It's like when I watched. That's why I wanted to go and talk to I went to talk to the people who are at the Brian Tamaki march. That
mm, mm.
recently, and I thought I just want to meet the people who follow him because nobody talks to him. They're just too. There's quite class oriented. I think it's the elite
Yeah,
managerial class doesn't talk to the working class really.
no, they don't.
They don't, and so yeah, I just thought that they don't do that. Or if they did, they'd go in with a lens and they'd see them in a certain way. A bit like when John Campbell did that documentary on Brian Tamaki. I thought this is just a stitch up. This isn't.
Yeah,
It just didn't feel fair. It just yeah. And
I find John quite frustrating because
yeah.
he likes to think he's telling the stories of the underclass, but he's
Yeah.
not
No.
penetrating the underclass the way he thinks he is.
No, he's very preachy, isn't he? He's very preachy
Yeah,
from the
he's very
pulpit.
and it feels like the poor in his stories are like these cuddly teddy bears that he's discovered, and
Yeah,
look at this,
yeah,
it's like they're not.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's a bit of
I,
pity.
I, I,
Yeah,
there's a bit of that. I don't think he's quite penetrated those communities the way he thinks he
no,
has.
I think that's true.
Mm,
He's done it
mm,
according to his dinner party group. And that's what I
that's right.
think that generally
Mm,
I regard the media as a monoculture. They've all share pretty much the same views and they all bolster each other up and there's not enough kind of friction. Like at least when I was there, I mean, I might have looked down on the business reporters because they were supporting the capitalist regime. I mean, now I just think,
Yeah.
but there was
We're
more.
all old lefties.
I know we all got older and more mature and think that I now realize some of the things I thought were just stupid. But anyway, there were people who disagreed with you and had a different view, and that you might have thought they were horrible Tories or horrible whatever. But it seemed to me there was a lot more variety, more diversity in points of view. There doesn't seem to me to be diversity in points of view. And a lot of the times when I'm really dark about the media, I just think they're just stenographers for the regime. That's what it feels like to me. They're just stenographers for the regime. They're just, the regime being the Labour Party that they want to get back in. They hate the government, obviously. Obviously. There's certain people, you can tell who they like, who they don't like. And they will frame the story or not write about something. And so, yeah, I find it really, really disappointing, really, and disturbing for our democracy, really, really disturbing. And now, since I've been following the sex and gender issue, I realise how many stories they just haven't written because it doesn't suit their narrative. So therefore, ordinary people just don't know that the whole trans edifice is crumbling. They don't know. They haven't even heard about that Algerian boxer now has admitted that he's male. That hasn't even made mainstream media. It makes it onto the fringe things that I look at. They haven't found out about the WPATH files, how that organisation is completely discredited. They haven't found out. There's so many things that they haven't looked into. Yeah.
Well, when Daphne Whitmore won the case that we supported her in Palmerston North, you know, when Speak Up for Women were wanting to talk about the birth, deaths and marriages changes to you know, which is a government policy. So you should be able to speak about that anywhere as a government policy. And even Martin Davidson was like, oh no, it's good that they're being banned. So it's a government policy.
I know.
I mean, she's just a ridiculous person. But so they won that case. Now this was a big deal because we'd lost the Auckland City Council Phil Goff fiasco.
That's right.
Yeah.
But Lauren Southern and that one.
Yeah. Defending, well, we were defending the principle. We were never defending them. We were defending the principle. But we went through, we went to the High Court. So we went through, there were 3 cases. We got some things in our favor and thought, let's push it. Let's go further. So we were slowly pushing the door open for the win in Palmerston North. And nothing in the media on that. Like weird, like when Molyneux and Southern were here, there was the media were all over it. Giving Phil Goff, lots of time and to talk about how great I am for for breaking human rights law and all that stuff. Breaching the neutrality of these public spaces and everything. But when we won that, and I think we got the result on the Friday. I think the Tuesday there was this a little article.
And actually, it makes me realise that my views have changed because when Phil Goff was doing that, I thought, oh no, that's a good thing. They're not putting out the views of these terrible people. But I've completely changed. I think I thought, I just had the views of a reflexive left-wing person. Oh yes, these people are unpeople. Their views are not worth hearing. They're, they'll poison the well sort of thing. But now I think that this is just ridiculous.
Well, free speech and is a very simple principle, but a lot of people still get quite confused about it. And I think with the neutrality of public venues, that's one where people got quite confused. What they don't really understand is that once we'd set a precedent, and he'd done it once. If he'd done it another time, if there's no free speech union, he's just going, you, not you, you can, not you. Then, all you need is a change of government, and then the whole script gets flipped on its head.
I get it now, but I get it.
Well, we're sort of seeing that with Israel and Australia. Like a lot of people who are jumping up and down and crying Jewish conspiracy would have been all for hate speech laws.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Now it's a travesty.
Yeah, I really
How
had to.
could this awful, Albanese be banning us? I mean, we're the good guys. You ban other people. You don't ban us.
Yes,
You
that's
know?
right. That's what I think. I had not realized that I'd cast myself as one of the good people, and the good people are allowed to tell the bad people to shut up. I had to come round, I really did
Yeah, I
believe
mean,
I was part of the virtuous circle, and now I think that it's just sanctimonious drivel, really.
yeah.
Yeah, I've had to do a complete 180. And actually, it was about the time that the Free Speech Union started, and I wrote a story on it, of that, and also the platform was starting at the same time. And it was with North and South, and the editor was so concerned about some of the things that they were saying that I think she got about 6 sub-editors to look at it. Like, it was just that insecurity that, because free speech is right wing if it's done wrong, yeah. Anyway, and they talked about this sub-editors writing notes saying, "Oh, this is punching up, not punching down," and da 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 da. And I thought, yeah. It just took me a while to work out that what the frame of reference of these people, these people who were judging that this was sort of unseemly. Anyway,
But these are notes you never would have got in 1985.
no, probably not. Probably not.
You wouldn't have got, you're punching down a bit there.
That phrase was a new phrase. It's a new phrase, isn't it? Punching up.
It's a new
It's
phrase.
a whole new, whole different way of looking at it. It wasn't.
Mm.
So I was in the vanguard of what was feminism, women's rights, and all that kind of stuff. And, abortion, law reform, blah blah blah, and that was all okay. But this new iteration, this whole identity, this identity parade, that's a different thing altogether. That's really fractured and quite damaging, I think. Really damaging for society.
Yeah, it's really damaging, and it just hasn't been good. I mean, there are, I think that the media does have de facto censorship.
It does.
I mean, like even the Jewish question, it's like, I don't like saying Jewish question. It's got bad overtones, but, Israel, anti-Semitism and things like that, they're not, I mean, anti-Semitism is the most, we have stats now. There's more anti-Semitism than other forms of racism in New Zealand.
Really?
But that's not, but it's not reflected in the media because they just don't really.
I'd like to know who are the people who are the most anti-Semitic. What group of people are they? Who are they? I think it would probably be more in the elites. I think it would be probably kind of.
I think it would be too. Like in South Auckland, where I'm from originally, and I can go back there. There's not a lot of people aren't really thinking about.
No, I
Jews,
don't think they are.
and they're not really doing that. There's a lot of, even identity politics is not that big a thing out there.
Yeah, that's my
And
view.
the interesting thing about identity politics, which I find quite fascinating, is that, and the whole idea of cultural relativism, which is a big thing that, is that most of the people, you would think that someone that was a culturally, who was a cultural relativist, would have a broad knowledge of cultures.
Yes.
So they've arrived at this place.
Yeah.
But it's the opposite.
It is.
They know nothing about culture, but want to promote this relativist idea. Like one of the heads of Hamas who's still alive, who's in Qatar, there was this Al Jazeera symposium thing that happened like last week, and he was speaking, and he was talking about Syria, and Jolani, or who's the new head of, the former ISIS guy that's running Syria, they've been purging Kurds in the east.
Okay.
And Erdogan in Turkey has a Kurdish problem in his eyes, so he's sort of backing them and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And the Hamas guy was saying, just openly, was like, Kurdish rights is another Zionist project. In the same way the Druze is, and even the Alawites. Any minority group that's getting support or wants support is Jewish.
Yeah.
You know, like that's why is he saying that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he's not a Westerner.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's an open supremacist.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's just very open about Sunni Arab dominance.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Hamas.
Yeah.
Yet Chloe Swarbrick
Yeah.
refused to call Hamas terrorists
Yeah.
a day or two after
Yeah. I know.
October 7th.
I know.
She would not know anything about this.
No, she wouldn't.
She would not be able, she would think he's a broadly left-wing sort of revolutionary type.
Yeah.
But Che Guevara, maybe
Yeah.
we should look at him like that.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
she just would not have that sense
Yeah.
of what he really believes.
Yes.
And culturally. Not to say all people in the Middle East are like this, because
No.
even the Levant
Yeah.
was incredibly cosmopolitan for years and years and years,
Yeah.
centuries.
Yeah.
Under the Ottomans.
Yes.
You know, that's why calling it Palestinian land or Jewish land is a bit tricky, because
Yeah.
it was super cosmopolitan.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why two states was a really good sort of solution and middle point, you know.
Yeah.
But she wouldn't know. She just wouldn't know this stuff.
No, she wouldn't. It is just talking points, isn't it? It's just fashionable bullet points in your circle, I think. And
that's
it's just
it is
polishing their halos. It really is luxury beliefs that mean that don't. It just confers status on her, but doesn't mean anything really. Not really.
And I think the other thing for a politician too is that the thing with identity politics as well is that, like, and I think the Greens may have actually paid a bit of a price for this in the polls, because you know they've been as high as 15% with like sort of savvy people like Russell Norman, and Matidia Toure, who were, remember when they were around, they were almost the opposition leaders for a bit there, weren't they? Like they were pretty strong.
Yes.
And everyone will talk, you know, so the media always talks Chloe up and says, what's Chloe going to do this year? There's always that profile that starts the year off, but she's pretty dim.
And also, I think the whole
sorry, I'll just finish my point. Sorry. But the thing with her, with the identity thing is like, and I think it's cost her in the polls, is she'll be, the thing with her being vocal about Israel and a lot of the identity stuff is all you really need to do is sort of, you know, make a lot of noise, but you don't really have to come up with policy. You don't really have to sort of sit down and broker things. Like things. It's not really politics. It's student politics.
Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah.
It's something you do, you know, between classes. You just have a little bit of let off a bit of steam and
it sounds
you know,
good. I've
wave
heard
your
her
flag
speak.
around.
She's good at whipping up the crowd. She's very good. She's very good. She wants a real cause. You know, it's like she's got no real cause. She needs a real cause, really, because she's the sort of Joan of Arc. You know, sees herself in that light.
She see, I think she got her bum knocked in a bit with the cannabis thing. It didn't quite. Yeah, it didn't quite work for her, and I think she just went a bit. She didn't handle defeat well either. There, I think she thought she was going to win it, but it was her approach was very statist.
Okay,
it was like, we're going to take over marijuana, and you know, and the shops are going to be 20, you know, 200, you know, a mile or two outside of main centers and all that. And it's like, no, just let people grow 3 plants. It's a libertarian idea. It's not a statist idea.
Yeah, she's a state control kind of person. I can imagine that.
Yeah, she got that wrong.
Yeah, the regime. She is definitely that. Yeah.
So, talking to difficult people, let's just move on to that quickly. We'll probably wrap up fairly soon, but talking to difficult people, like we've sort of touched on that. I just wanted to bring up Fire and Fury, which was the New Zealand on Air documentary that got made a few years ago about the parliamentary protests.
Yep.
And that was Paula Penfold, who is a good journalist.
Yep.
She did not speak to any of the far right characters that, you know, that she profiled. She was just sort of looking at, you know, but a couple of months earlier, she sat down and did a very long form interview with Billy TK.
Okay.
When he was doing the COVID stuff. Now that was just a very intense Paula Penfold in a room with Billy TK. I think it was on Stuff Again. Went for about half an hour. she sort of started getting into potential infidelities on his part and stuff.
Okay.
So there was a walkout at the end, but he basically disappeared.
Yeah, why do you think that was? Do you think it was as a result of that interview?
I think it was. I
Oh,
think this is that whole free speech thing of getting, sometimes when it's all out on the table,
yeah.
a person like that will wilt
Yep.
and sort of withdraw.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how you cancel people,
Yeah. Yeah.
really, like by really doing. And I think
Yeah.
maybe he had a marriage to save by the end of the
Okay.
interview, but he kind of disappeared.
Ah,
She didn't use that approach with fire and fury,
right.
and there was a severe backlash.
Yeah. I can hardly remember. I just remember I thought it was kind of laughable, to be honest. But anyway, I didn't rate it at all.
No.
Not at all. Did
Do you
you?
remember why? Or
Just that it
no,
was
it had
only
good.
one particular point of view, wasn't it? It was over
Yeah, it was
dramatized. It was over dramatized.
very much so. A lot of cinematic music,
Yeah.
sort of special effects, sort of weird
Yeah.
transitions, and that it just went a bit too. They were really trying to play up
Yeah.
the threat and everything. So what's interesting there is NZ On Air got quite a hard time for funding it.
Oh, did they?
And yeah, they did. And I, because it was a polemic,
Yeah, it was.
but I did speak to NZ On Air afterwards, and I said, what I found interesting is like, they often don't. They're pretty good, really. They don't approve like the content necessarily.
What?
They're not. Once you get the funding, they're not like,
Yeah.
let's have a meeting at the end of the week. How are you going? They're not doing that.
That's good. Hands off. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, and I said, well, because there was quite a bit of media heat and pushback on social media, why didn't you clarify that for people? Oh, if you're explaining, you're losing. And I was like,
Okay.
no, that doesn't apply here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Just say we don't really get it because they would have been funded as a block,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
They would have been funded as a block, and they
Yeah.
wouldn't have even known what they were going to do. They just trusted the team. But
Yeah. I was surprised it won
yeah,
awards, weren't you? I was surprised.
yeah, but that's the back to the Voyager thing. There's a lot of patting on the back. I saw that.
Did you think
nights
that?
like that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I did think that. I was an outsider.
Yeah.
Andrea Vance got an award.
Yeah.
And she'd just called Nicola Willis.
Oh yeah, the C word.
So everyone, whoa! And I thought,
yeah, it's very clubby. It's very clubby.
Very clubby.
Yeah,
very
I agree.
clubby.
I agree, and it's kind of juvenile, really. I mean, they think they're pushing at the cutting edge, but they're not really. They are just stenographers for the regime. They're not actually looking outside their bubble. They're not outside their dinner party circle.
Yeah, they're just well, when I think about South Aucklanders and different people like groups like that, like there's no one telling those stories at all.
No, and that's why I liked meeting those Brian Tamaki supporters. I thought these are nice, ordinary people. These are Kiwis I've got more in common with than I have in the sort of grey lynn set, to be honest. They're concerned about ordinary things that you're not allowed to talk about. Unspeakable things. There's still those. There is an omerta in lots of topics in New Zealand, I think, in that kind of nice people's politics. There's certain things you can't discuss.
The other thing, like South Auckland's a good example because you could have a gang member a gang house on the end of your street and everything. I mean, I've had lots of experiences where I'll talk to someone, I get on with them, and then we're having a few beers, and then they say, "Oh, I think this is a conspiracy theorist," and I think, "Oh my God, you're just completely deranged."
Okay.
So I talk about something else, and we just don't talk about that anymore.
Okay.
And then I'm sort of getting on with the guy again.
Okay. They've got all that. That is weird. Okay.
Well, we all have.
Yeah.
We probably all have kooky ideas that
Yeah.
we might not appreciate, but we don't. But we say, "Well, I like this part about the person."
Yes, that's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah, it's just interesting about the people that the media focuses on and the people they don't. Anyway, I think the media is in a very, very dismal state at the moment. But things change, don't they? New media comes up. if there's an appetite for it, something will happen. Yeah, I'm sort of still hopeful that people are curious and hungry for news. Really.
Yeah.
I am hopeful for that.
Well, the Substack has got some amazing writers. I
Yep.
discover amazing pieces
There
all
are.
the time on
Me
Substack.
too. Me too.
Mm.
It's where I get more different views from. Really, really different. Yeah. And so I'm really pleased about that, because before I think I probably just had quite an accepted narrow worldview. Probably I did. Now I'm reading a much more varied overseas. Yeah, I'm reading all sorts of things. Yeah. So I think it's quite an exciting time to be in the media, really, at this point. It's hard in New Zealand because it's small and we're a small market. That is really tricky to make money in this part of the world. So I can understand that. But I do love a lot of the things that are happening overseas. I do love some of the podcasts and things I listen to. It's fabulous. It's fabulous. And I've changed my mind. You probably have too. All the things. When I listed all the things I've changed my mind on. Phenomenal.
Yeah. No, that's right.
Yeah.
And defending people in the Free Speech Union and meeting people that I never would have probably gravitated towards.
Yeah.
But see, I mean, you'd know this as a journalist. I mean, this as a documentary writer. Like I went in one day and the boss said, "Oh, you're going to go to America and learn about missile defense lobbying because you're doing a profile of this Māori guy that became a gridiron star and then he moved into missile defense."
Wow.
And so next thing you know, I'm sitting down with people in the Bush administration and
fantastic.
learning all about the Iron Dome. And
oh my God, how fantastic.
It was amazing. But
Yeah.
I would have never pursued that.
No. That's the
on my
wonderful thing.
own.
That's the good thing about journalism, isn't it?
That's the wonderful thing about documentary and journalism. It's like, where am I going now? Oh, I have to become a mini expert in this thing in 6 weeks.
Yeah, that's really
and
cool.
And you do that.
That's really cool.
And you're shaking hands with people you never would have met.
Me too, yeah. And giving people credence that I would never have given any credence to in the past. And taking all sorts of people seriously that I never would have in the past. So, yeah, I've changed my mind a lot.
But honouring those people too.
Yeah.
See, I don't jump people. I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
I don't ambush people. I'm just not into it. Even people I really wouldn't like, I'd still feel wrong about ambushing them.
Doing a gotcha interview.
I've never been a big fan of that.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
If someone's prepared to give their story to you and share personal details, this is quite a gift.
Yeah, it is. It's trust, isn't it? It's trust.
There's trust.
You have to be a complete psychopath just to be the gotcha person, because you really just.
Some people are.
You're feigning empathy, you're feigning compassion,
Yeah.
but deep
Some
down
do
you're
it.
thinking, "Oh, goody, that's good," and that's
Yeah.
People can do it, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to go home and do that. Yeah.
No.
But it works for a lot of people. It works.
For some people, it works.
Yeah. But we're very privileged, aren't we? The people we get to meet. I think we're lucky.
Yeah.
Really lucky.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, it's lovely to talk to you, Dave. Probably time for you to go now.
It probably is, because I think you got to be somewhere.
I've got to be
We've
somewhere.
really had a good yap.
Yeah, it's been lovely to chat to you too. Really cool.
Also, I'll just do our sign off.
Yep.
So, people, so this was another great episode. I'm sure you'll agree. If you have questions for us or the show, do contact us on podcast@fsu.nz.
Yes, I think it is. Is it?
Is it?
Is it org? It's not org, is it?
No, it's NZ. It's
Okay.
.nz. FSU.nz. So do send those questions through, and we'll see you again on Free to Speak.
Thanks very much, Dave.
Thank you for listening to Free to Speak. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and consider sharing the podcast with others. We release new episodes regularly, and subscribing is the easiest way to stay up to date. If you have any questions, feedback or suggestions, you can contact us at podcast@fsu.nz. If you want to find out more about the New Zealand Free Speech Union, visit fsu.nz.